beginning stage of tissue culturing. But for this stage, which is the step 1, the preparation of the potato, after we have peeled off the skin of the oyster mushroom, we will use a very sharp scalpel and cut a piece off. In picking up this piece off,
you're dropping in the host into this solution.
The next step, the inoculation of the grain. From where I come from, this is like treasure. This is pricey. And this substrate have other ingredients added into it to create that food environment.
It smells like Chinese medicine. Welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. Today, we have another legend of a guest returning back to our show. It is Liam Lee from Mushroom World Phuket. Now, today, we are going to be talking about how to grow your own oyster mushrooms from home. And you're going to learn all about Mushroom World and what's been going on. So, as you can see, we're going through the entire process on the different substrates of mushrooms, but specifically only on oyster mushrooms. We talk a little bit about reishi and lion's mane. Now, if you want to see a podcast that we did with Liam, I think back in December, that was more about his life and understanding what was going on in Mushroom World, specifically the grow operations for lion's mane and reishi. Today is all about do-it-yourself, homegrown oyster mushrooms, and he's going to explain a little bit on his side what they can do when you're visiting his facility down in Chao Long. If you're tired of listening to me ramble, we got timestamps below so you can navigate the entire process of this grow operation podcast. If you want to know who we are Fruiting Body Mushrooms, and that's why we're called Fruiting Body Podcast. Fruiting Body is the fully developed life form of the mushroom. You're going to learn about that today as well. So we're doing lion's mane, reishi, cordyceps, mushroom blends, complexes, turkey tail, chaga, and even some nootropics products that help you focus. It's kind of a replacement, they say, for Adderall or ADHD medicine. I think we're going to get this started now, so don't forget to like, subscribe, go smash that like button, smash the bell, and without further ado, Liam Lee.
Hey, thanks, Brent, and I'm very glad to be here again. And today we're going to talk something even more exciting than the time before.
Yeah, so last time we had a couple technical issues. Just the camera quality wasn't up to my standards. So we're going to get you back on, and this will be great. We can use the content for our own social media and to be able to produce and push the educational level of functional mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms. I don't want to keep the audience waiting and tell them we're going to be talking about how to grow mushrooms. So we're going to jump right into it. Yeah. Again, if you want to hear Liam's backstory, we did an episode before. I'll leave a link in the description, and I'll probably put something here you can click. Or you can just check the channel, and there's another podcast about Liam Lee. That's his life story and how he got into this business. So we're going to jump right into it. I'm going to allow Liam to take over, and I'll ask the questions as the audience, and Hans free to ask questions as well. How to grow functional mushrooms in your own home. So just let us know everything going on the table and take us through the process step by step.
Definitely. Morning, everyone. Today we're going to do something very interesting. I'm going to share with everyone on how to grow mushroom, and I'm going to share with you what the heck is all about. Yeah. All right, and that's the simplest way of growing mushroom. Shall we begin?
Yeah, so we'll get started. So, it's probably going to be difficult with the audio. So for any of the audio listeners out there, this is becoming more visual. What I'll try to do is explain what Liam's doing. If not, if you're listening on Spotify or any type of podcast platform, just hop on over to YouTube. This is the beginning of the podcast, so it'll be very easy to navigate and watch this directly. So go ahead. I think it might be hard to use the microphone as you explained, but let's try our best.
Right. I'll try my best to be as audio as possible.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to share with everyone here is the right way of growing mushroom. And I'm not sure did I mention this in my first podcast. There's a difference between mushroom grower versus mushroom. And let's talk about nanny. Nanny is someone who just bought a bag from a mushroom farm and bring it home, all right, and just wait for the mushroom to grow. This is the work of a nanny. But definitely many of us out there want to be a grower. And how do you grow them? You got to grow them from sustainably through the beginning stage of tissue culturing. You can see that this is a tissue that has been cultured. But before we can culture the tissue, we need to prepare the medium, the media that is based on potato, dextro, and agar. So this is the medium that the mushroom will need to flourish. And when you done well, this is where you see the mushroom mycelium are growing. All right.
So that this is the substrate before any inoculation.
Right. This is the beginning of life, the beginning cycle of culturing mushroom. First, if you want to be a grower, you need to how to be sustainable. You need to prepare the tissue so that they can grow into mycelium. And after that, you jump into stage 2, which is step 2.
Well, let's talk about the first stage of getting to. Sorry, you mentioned that the name for this stage is it's like you're preparing it for the inoculation to begin the process into the mycelium.
Yes.
How do we get to this stage? What do we have to do to get it to that stage of the bottle?
All right, quickly,
Yeah.
I will explain quickly. You just buy about 250 grams of potato. Get a pack of agar, which you can get it easily from super cheap.
Just any egg is fine.
There's a specific brand that carries 25 grams. I'm not sure what's the name, but if you can get other alternative agar, that should be fine as well.
Agar, sorry, what is that?
Agar is a solution where once you cook it, it harden.
Okay.
And this is what you see here. This is agar.
Okay.
This form the foundation for the mushroom cell to grow. Potato give them the nutrient, which is a starch. And now we move on to the sugary substance. We call this a dextro. Dextro is a sugary substance where they give them the carbohydrate. With these 3 combination, the mushroom cell will grow. And you need the mushroom cell to go to your next step of inoculation of the grain.
Just a quick shout out to 5 Star Marine and Sean Stenning. 5 Star Marine, they're a sponsor on this podcast. So they're just helping us with the production and allowing us to make this content on a week-to-week basis to give it back to you guys, telling you these stories about people living not just in Phuket, but in Thailand. If you want to go check them out, it's on Instagram at 5 Star Marine Phuket. And we'll also leave links in the description. A little bit about who they are. They are a VIP private speedboat chartered tour on the island of Phuket. So they're taking you to places like Koh Lipe Bay, Krabi, Phang Nga Bay. You have complete control over your own trip, which most of other services are not offering that. So Hans will probably throw up a QR code. You can scan that as well, or links are in the descriptions. Go check them out. Let them know if we sent you there. It just helps us grow this podcast. So let's get back to the podcast. Okay, so now once we've set up kind of the host of the mushroom to be able to be born, how long is that going to take? Does that need to stay incubated for a period of time? Do you have to be very careful from it bacteria infiltrating? How do we manage that process?
Right. I'm going to share with you the first hack. Every stages of growing mushroom, you need to be very clean. You're right, as you mentioned. But for this stage, which is the step 1, the preparation of the potato, dextro, agar, PDA. What we do here professionally as a commercial grower, we will have to put them into a sterilization machine to kill all the pathogen, all the microorganism. But as a home grower, I teach you a shortcut, a hack. What you need to do, you do as what is being prepared. You don't have to sterilize them. You put it under a UV light. A UV light where you put it for an hour. The UV light itself will be able to keep your PDA clean. And you can move on to stage 2.
Can anyone purchase a UV light, let's say on Lazada?
Yeah.
And it's very cheap and easy?
Yes. Those UV light that I think our home are using, you can just have it.
And much more safer. So for example, I will pickle cucumbers, pickles, let's say. And I have to boil, I'll kind of Chinese style where
Yes.
I take the teapot, I boil the water,
Yeah.
but then I have to be careful and I put it over the glass. But
Yes.
sometimes it cracks if it's too cold, or sometimes you can burn yourself. This process of using the UV light, it's just much quicker, faster, safer.
Yes, but you can rest assured this bottle doesn't break easily,
Okay.
and it can easily get from Thailand.
Where would you get that type of bottle, and what's the name of it? How would I find that on Lazada?
You know, when they drink alcohol, they will have a bottle of soda.
Okay.
This is a soda bottle.
Just a simple soda bottle.
Simple soda.
Okay.
You know?
Okay, so I'm acting as the audience for anyone out there. If in case people are already well aware of these steps, and as we go through each step, I'll probably ask questions like a 5-year-old,
Yes.
just so anyone that might have those questions, we can kind of get past that. And let us know in the comments any questions. Just leave it there because Liam can always come back. I mean, he's in Phuket, going back and forth between Singapore, but at least he can come back and we can answer that on another episode. So take us to the next step of the process.
Right. And after we have prepared this, do you want me to run through the brief step by step of preparation of the agar?
Yeah, take all your
Right.
time.
So the ingredients that you need is 250 gram of potato, a pack of 25 gram of agar powder, and 25 gram of the sugary substance, which is a dextro. So this is the amount of ratio that you need to prepare this medium, and you need to cook them. You need to cook them for about 45 minutes, and once they are cooked, they will start to thicken, and that's where you start to pour them into the soda bottle, right? And once it's done, you just cover it with paper and paste and leave it cool down before you put it under the UV light. So once it's hardened and cool down, you can move on to your next step of sterilization using UV light. So this will be the whole process for step 1.
Okay, the paper on top, is that like an A4 computer paper, or are we using
Yes.
and can we use like a breathable paper towel, or should it be non-breathable?
You use a breathable one, but before that we have a piece of fabric. We use a piece of fabric to slot into the hole, and we cover it up with the paper, so that will be fine.
Okay.
No specific type of paper.
Okay.
Right.
And then as we move to step 2.
Right. After this is done, we will start to do a tissue culturing, and this is what we will use. This is the stem of the mushroom.
Okay, let's take a
Right.
look at that. So
This
if
is the stem of the mushroom.
Well, I guess Hans can zoom in. Anyways, everyone that's seen a stem of a mushroom, so I think
Right.
we get it.
And this is from the oyster mushroom, where
Yeah.
you see them very often in our dishes. So what do? Under a very aesthetic environment, clean environment, we will do and tear up. All right?
Okay.
We will do a peeling of the skin.
So anyone listening, he's peeling the skin off the stem of the mushroom.
Right. And please bear in mind, this is not how we normally do it. We will always use isopro 70% alcohol to wipe ourselves down, the equipment. And we do use certain element of heat to heat up the tip of the scalpel to make it as clean as possible. And if you want, you can build a box like this. We call this the SAB box.
Okay, we're gonna zoom out. So basically, this is like a storage box that you can do it yourself.
Right.
You're cutting holes in the side, and you're able to kind of like quarantine the product itself by putting your hands through that. So it is sterilized.
Right.
There is no bacteria. This is one of the biggest issues when growing mushrooms that we
Right.
explained before. If it becomes contaminated, the entire grow operation can fall apart quite
Yes.
quickly. But I think would you agree that the best way to ensure that doesn't happen is just make sure the area you're working in is very sterilized, and you can be using spray bottles of alcohol, rubber gloves, and make sure you're using the proper clothing and equipment, which might sound a bit crazy, but this is what you need to do to make sure your grow operation does not become contaminated.
Definitely. And this will help you to do a great job. Right, you'll be all contained inside the box here, and it may not be 100% clean, but at least it's better than in the open space. So after we have peeled off the skin of the oyster mushroom, we will use a very sharp scalpel and cut a piece of the oyster.
So he just Hans is zoomed in. He's just cutting off a piece of the oyster of the stem.
Right.
If you're listening out there,
Okay.
and it's a very small scalpel that you would
Right.
imagine a surgeon would use.
And then we will use a tweezer to assist in picking up this piece of oyster mushroom, and we will drop.
So he's used a tweezer. He's picked out a piece of the oyster mushroom that's obviously fresh, uncontaminated within the stem.
Right.
And now he's dropping it back into the phase 1 bottle.
Right.
Sorry, what do we describe that bottle, or what do we call that phase? Is there like a term we can call this?
Yes. This is a PDA.
PDA.
PDA, potato, dextro, agar. This is a PDA bottle.
Potato,
And-
dextro,
right.
agar. Okay.
You can see there's the fabric here. All right.
So now you're removing the fabric. We removed the paper, and you're dropping in the host into this
Right.
solution.
Right.
Okay.
Which is hardened. The solution has really solidified, give them a very good foundation for the mushroom to grow. And this is what we will do for tissue culturing.
Okay.
And this is actually the beginning of their growing stage. So you can see that a piece of oyster mushroom has been dropped onto the surface of the agar, and we let it incubate for how long? 15 to 17 days.
15 to 17
Yes.
days.
Right. So once it's ready, you see that a lot of white fiber, which is a mycelium, all over the medium. Then what do we do next?
Okay, so if you're listening, he was just showing kind of a test tube of the next phase of what would happen. And if you're aware of the mushroom processes and the phases, what you're going to see is that host, because of the oyster mushroom, it begins to grow the network of mycelium within it
Right.
itself.
Right. So a network of mycelium will spread like crazy for the next 15 to 17 days. If there's any form of contamination, Brandon, you will see a lot of funny colors. The common one will be the green mold, right? And you will know this is already been contaminated, right? So what you can do is you either throw it away or you treat it as a form of art. They can be beautiful.
How often does that occur? Or is it, as long as you're keeping things quite clean and sterile, it's not going to happen?
It will happen. For example, maybe out of 10 bottles, you have 90% of them okay, and then the other 10% will be spoiled. So it does occur. And there's also chances that you have it all right, but there's also bad days whereby you have 0 of them right, 100% contaminated. So expect that, manage the expectation, but importantly, you learn the skill of how to do it. Right?
And where do you store that bottle? So after we've inoculated it and we need to go store it for the 15 to 17 days,
Yes.
would I be storing it, let's say, in my kitchen in a dark cupboard in the back and trying to keep it cool, because it's not so easy in Thailand?
You're right, yeah. You put it them in the dark space where they do not suffer any temperature shock. You know, temperature shock can actually trigger them to behave differently, even contaminated. So if you can maintain a constant temperature in that dark space, that would be great.
Yeah,
right?
this temperature fluctuation in the daytime. So
Right.
if I'm downstairs working in my aircon, we're okay because we go to bed, we're in the aircon. But if you are constantly aircon on, aircon off, that temperature fluctuation, is it going to lead to humidity and moisture within the bottle, which then could lead to molding?
Okay. If you are talking about oyster mushroom, they are considered to be hardy brothers. I have observed, I leave the aircon on and I off the aircon, there will be moisture, but they seems to survive,
Okay.
right? But I can't say that for lion's mane or any type of gourmet mushroom. But for oyster mushroom, they can be treated that way.
I think, and that's probably why a lot of the people on the island, they prefer to be growing oyster. It's a bit easier, less headache.
Right. Low cost
Yep.
and high demand. Right? So if you want to go into mushroom farming, consider oyster mushroom first. Right?
Okay, so the next, we've inoculated it. Now you've incubated it, and we have the mycelium.
Right.
Let us know the next step, what you're going to do.
The next step will be the inoculation of the grain. All right. This is a bottle of sorghum grain that has been fully inoculated by Mycelium. you can see that it's all very white. All right, colored nicely.
So, how do you call this grain?
Sorghum.
Sorghum.
Yes.
Sorghum. And what is that? It's
What the Chinese do is they make into a wine, and Thailand have a lot of this.
like a rice wine almost.
Yes, it's like something like a rice wine, and the name of this grain is sorghum grain.
How do you spell that?
SORGHUM.
Okay. And again, anyone could probably purchase that on Lazada as well.
In Thailand, everyone is very lucky. Anything that you need to grow mushroom is easily available here. All right. So Shopee, Lazada, from where I come from, this is like treasure. This is pricey. So what do? I don't use sorghum. I use the corn cob. You know corn.
Corn, yeah.
Yeah. After you have eaten the corn, what do you do with the body? We recycle them to do this.
And you're doing that mostly in Singapore.
Right.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we and after that, we will drop a piece of this tissue into the bottle of grain. All right. And you'll be surprised within the next 15 to 17 days, they will be in this form, fully white. All right. All ready to begin your third stage, which is step 3. Right. And how do you prepare them? Simply soak them overnight, and you mix the solution with about 20 grams of sugary dextro, so that they can absorb the carbohydrate that they want for the next 24 hours. And once that is done, you bring them out, dehydrate them properly, and before you drop them into this bottle. And you guess what's the weight of this bottle of grain?
20 grams, 30 grams.
It's 150 grams.
Okay, wow.
This bottle of grain is 150 grams. And do you know this spawn grain? You know how many bags you can actually generate mushroom bag?
No idea.
36.
36 bags.
Yes. One bottle of this, you can pour in 36 bag of this size weighing 800 grams. Can you imagine how productive this bottle of grain is? Right?
So we're now we're going to be using this grain and mixing it with a substrate.
Right.
Okay.
Which there is which I brought some here to demonstrate to you. But this bottle of grain, if you are doing home base, you can easily do 3 bottles. It's good enough. 150 grams per bottle, and multiply by 36, you will have a couple of hundreds of mushroom bag ready to harvest, right? Even to sell.
If I make this grain here, and this is, what do we call it, the spawn grain?
Yes, spawn grain.
How quickly do I need to use that into the substrate?
Very good question, Brendan. For example, after you have done the tissue, you find that you don't have the time to go to step 2. What you do is you just leave them in a very constant temperature and hope for the best. All right, hope for the best.
Could you put it in the refrigerator? Is that going to help?
Don't do that unless you intend not to use them for forever. You only put them in the fridge is just to admire them. But if you're going to use it on the later time, maybe not the 15 days, but maybe a month later, you put it out in the normal temperature, ambient temperature. All right. As for the grain, similarly, if you're going to keep them for a long time, room temperature will be fine. Remember, do not shock them with changes of temperature. All right. So once we have done this, what do we do? How do you know that the spawn grain that you did is actually of good strength and vitality? Let me teach you how. You got to break them. All right. If they are broken.
Yeah, so right now, if you're listening, he's got the bottle, he's shaking around and breaking it up. This is basically breaking up all the mycelium.
Right.
And we're going to understand if this is like of high quality that could be used into that substrate for growing the mushroom.
Right. And after we have broken it up, you'll observe the inside of it that they are dry. There's no hidden moisture, which we do not want that to happen. And if you can, you do it 2 to 3 days before you inoculate the bag. Why? Because you want to observe. If I broke them down now, in the next 3 days, will they recolonize again? If they do recolonize the grain again, which you see just now, it means that they are very good to use. All right. So this is another form of observation or measurement, whether is this grain good enough for the next stage.
And if it doesn't?
Then most probably you got to find another one.
Throw it out.
Yeah, throw it away. Don't waste your time because you're going to waste a lot of time while doing all this. All right? But generally, if you do everything properly, it will not happen. Seldom it will happen. All right?
Okay, so kind of to recap, we went through phase 1 of the PDA.
Yes.
And now we've added the oyster mushroom to this substance, which created the mycelium.
Right.
That whole process is taking 15 days, 17 days.
Yes.
Once we get that, we're going to inoculate it into this grain here. Now, are there other grains besides this one and corn we could use? Or is this what recommended to use in Thailand?
This is recommended to use because based on my experience, they have very good functional value. But from where I come from, we don't have this grain, so I have no choice to use cop. But you can try millet.
Yes.
Yes. The only type of grain that you don't use are the soya grain. No, the red bean, green bean grain. I do not use them because they are troublesome with water. They retain a lot of water, and then you don't see them from the outside, but it happens in the inside. So you spoil everything. So apart from that, stick with this. This is a better choice, and you can get it easily.
Okay, and I'll go do some research for everyone and try to find these grains on Lazada, and I'll put links all in the description. Is there any content of like a step-by-step guide that you guys created yet that I could put in the description where people could go read on, or is that difficult still to find?
We do have a step-by-step.
Okay.
We only give out when they become our student.
Gotcha. Okay, so that's an upsell, guys. You got to head over there, and we'll deal with that then. Okay, so now that has taken, again, you're saying 15 days or 3 days we wait for that after we've broken it.
Yes.
To make sure that it comes back to life and it's becoming into form so that it's showing that it's healthy. And now we're going to move on to the next step of the inoculation from the grain into the substrate.
Before we go to the next stage, let me share with you a hack how you're going to do this. Instead of using grain, you can actually look at something more interesting. You know those barbecue stick? Buy new one. That barbecue stick will have the similar effect as the grain because they are wood-based, right? Mycelium will actually cling onto the barbecue stick, and you will be able to use stick by stick into your substrate. Instead of pouring grain, you use stick by stick into your substrate, right?
So it's you still do the grain process, but you're putting sticks inside the grain while it's growing so you can pull them out.
I will not use the grain anymore.
No, okay.
I just use the stick, everything.
Understood.
And then I'll just drop the tissue into the stick.
Okay.
And then let them function as what they are showing it here now. And once it's ready, I just pull out a stick and drop into the substrate. And you will be able to manage the quantity easily. All right. So this is another easy way to procure your that barbecue stick. You know, you can get it anywhere. But for this, you need to most probably cost you a little bit more, and you got to go online. All right. So this will bring you to the next stage, where the mushroom bag here, we call this a substrate, are using a certain type of hardwood. Do you know what is the hardwood that we are using?
Like sawdust?
Yes, sawdust. From what type of tree? Any idea, Brandon?
The rubber plantation trees?
Yes, because we have a lot here.
Yeah.
Southeast Asia have a lot here. But if you do have oak tree here, that would be even better. So we are using rubber tree. So this is the hardwood material. And this substrate have other ingredients added into it to give them, to create the food environment for your spawn grain to consume while you're waiting for them during incubation period.
What other ingredients are mixed in that substrate?
Sure. I always tell my learners in Thailand, you guys are very lucky because whatever you need, Thailand have. Whatever we need, Singapore doesn't have. Example, you know rice bran? You know the powdery rice bran?
Like rice berry? Or
No, the rice where they grind into powder.
Okay.
We call it the bran. So for me to acquire that, it's not that straightforward in Singapore. But here, the bran is very important. followed by other minerals, pumite, dolomite, gypsum, and if you want to add some magnesium sulfide, you can do so. Can it be purchased easily here? Easily, no problem. So these are the supplement that you need to add on to the substrate to get them going, so that the mycelium will have a good head start, and not the rest of the fungi, which we do not want to grow. But again, the brand that we're going to add into the substrate are solid matter, and the mushroom cell, they can't consume solid matter. So what do you think we should use to break it down into tiny little microbes, whereby the mushroom mycelium will be able to take in the nutrients? There's one very important solution that we need to add. Do you want to make a guess, Brandon?
I would say probably some sort of like liquid alcohol to like something.
Then drunk?
No. They're not drunken mushrooms.
Enzyme. You need enzyme.
Like a probiotic?
You can say that. But enzyme that you can do yourself very simply. You get there's molasses.
Yep.
So you can get some molasses, add a lot of water, let them ferment, and if you do it right, the smell will be great. That will be the solution you add into the substrate. All right? And that will helps the enzyme will break down the nutrients where the mushroom will be able to consume. And when everything is done properly, you will end up a bag full of mycelium ready to grow later. You can see there's two color here, the sawdust color and the color of white. And this is actually mycelium. And the spawn is actually dropped in the opening here. While they are resting, they will consume the nutrients until when they are ready, we will open them up for harvest. You can see that opening this cover, you have a fabric here. This is to make sure no dirty things come into the bag. At the same time, we want to make sure the bag have a good chance of survival. All right. So once they are ready, we will put it into the fruiting chamber for harvest.
Can you explain the process of making that bag initially, the material and what goes on to actually building it and putting it together correctly without contamination?
Okay. I will share with you the way that we do it commercially. So there are equipment that we need to mix them. And once we are done with the mixing, we will have a packaging machine. That's why you see that all the mushroom bags are in this form. There's the packaging machine created this form for this region.
Is it like a vacuum sealing machine?
No, this is just a simple drop and pack machine. So this is a 4-head machine where you can one time do 4 of this, or 8 head machine. One time we do 8 of this. And this is how the shape it looks like. And after we are done with it, what do? We let it set it overnight for 24 hours to give the enzyme to do its work. And how do we know that the enzyme is performing? When you hold them later on, you feel that their body is hot. So that is where the enzyme are working.
So it's hot.
It's warm. Warm, okay? It's not as cold as this, but it's warm. And after that, we will put it into a tank where we will sterile every single bag of it. And that is a lot of bags. And the tank can contain about 300 kilo of this bag.
If I want to make that bag at my own home and I don't have all my machines and I don't have the proper equipment, how would I do that myself?
Okay, there's a way where you can do it simply. You get a pot. We definitely have some kind of pot. There's a little bit of investment we got to put in. We get a big pot, and then we get a stand. We fill it up with water, right up to the level of the stand. We just place them there and blast it for 2 hours, and that will do the job.
Is it? It's blasting it with like hot water, or is it like? Are you
no burner?
The burner itself.
Yes, you use a burner. Put to maximum heat, and let it steam. Use the water to do its work. And for 2 hours later on, your chances of having a clean bag is there.
And I could use, where would I get that bag? Can I use any type of bag from the grocery store, from like Super Cheap, or is there a special bag for this?
I would suggest you don't buy the bag. Recycle the bottles. You know those mason jar? Those drink
like
bottle?
like a 2-liter Coca-Cola bottle too.
Right.
Okay.
I show you what I did.
Okay.
Again, Thailand have a lot of all these bottles. You can make use of this. It will not break while you are doing the sterilization. You will still be very good. And if you do have a lot of soft drink bottle, you can use that as well. Because those are good recyclable material. It's not harmful to health. You know why? Because these are food grade. Okay, these material are geared towards food grade, so they are very safe. But for me, I will make use of this because we have a lot to grow, to pleasure myself, not just to see them grow out of it. And this is how we can do it. We can do many, put in the pot, we heat it up with water for 2 hours, and they are ready for you to put in the spawn. Okay.
So for this one now, because with the bag, my understanding, the oyster mushroom is going to grow out of the side of the bag. How is it going to grow out of the glass bottle?
It's the same.
But it can only come out of the top?
Yes. They will grow up from the top. Just like how this is going to grow up from the top.
Okay, so it's only coming out from the top. I was under the assumption it actually was coming out of the side of the plastic. Can you add other holes?
I wouldn't encourage you to add a hole because there's a reason why we use this plastic. It functions like a greenhouse. We want to manage the moisture level in the sawdust. If you create too many openings, you dehydrate the bag too much, the mushroom doesn't grow. So that's the reason why we have one opening to give the strongest one grow first, right? The strongest one prevail. So this will be their competition. All right, this opening here will be the only place the mushroom will grow. They will grow for the next 2 to 3 months. You take a sniff.
Let's
Smell
see.
good.
Now, has this one begun to spawn yet, or?
Not yet. This is a new bag.
It smells like Chinese medicine.
Yes. So you can see that we don't do what the place you come from that they do in block and then they cut at the side. Why? Because they do have a very big surface area. They can do so. But for this setting, we will only grow from one opening. Okay. But they are built, they are very big. 1 meter substrate bag using straw. That's where the Thai will create a few openings from them to grow out from the side. So that depending on how big is your substrate.
How long did you say it was taking from the grain to inoculating the substrate to getting to this point here where the grain essentially has the mycelium, it's hard, it's ready to grow? What is the time between, again, the grain into the substrate to this point? How long does that
About
take?
30 days.
That takes 30 days. Now,
Yes.
Is this ready to grow?
Not yet. As you can see, the bottom is still sawdust.
Yes.
It has not changed to white yet. So they are still consuming and running.
And when this is in your storage, like, you should not be touching it, breaking it up, leave it.
No, we don't break them up.
Okay. So in total, now this has not been 30 days. It's been 25, 20 days.
Kind of.
When it becomes time and you can tell that it's ready to turn into the fruiting body,
Okay.
how do we know? Do you need to remove the lid? Will it kind of explain that step of the process?
Very. Assuming this bag is ready for fruiting, we will remove the lid. We will clear the opening. There's a reason why we need to clear the opening.
You'll take this tissue paper.
Yes,
Okay.
everything. We will clear the opening until you see the surface of the sawdust. Nothing else. The fabric, the grain, the mycelium, we will clear. We will only see the surface of the sawdust. There's a reason why we do that. This is to send a signal to the mycelium that you are ready to fruit. The moment they breathe, they touches oxygen, they know this is the place I will fruit. This is the reason why we need to clear everything. All right. If you were to close them up, they will still fruit, but you will create an obstacle, which the mushroom will not grow very well.
Okay, and when you see that's ready now at your facility at Mushroom World, you've set up different storage facilities. I've seen people walk in; they have these racks, and those are the ones they're ready to fruit. People can kind of see this process happening.
You definitely need to have a space where you incubate them. You need to have an incubation room, and you need a fruiting chamber. So we do have that. So after we have spawned them, we put them in the incubation room, let them do the work, and once they are ready in the next 30 days, we will shift them to the fruiting chamber, and we will start to harvest them.
Is there a certain temperature? Again, if I do that in my house in Thailand, can I just have it in my bedroom, aircon on, aircon off? How would that work?
Brendan, that is also a very safety question. Never grow your mushroom in your room, indoor, where you are staying there, where you are sleeping, because you will breathe in spores from the bag. You do not want sporation during the sporation period to breathe in the spore, because it can create health problem. Especially if you do have sensitive nose, sinus, or asthma, it can be even bad. So always leave them outside to grow, because oyster mushroom are hardy brothers. They can literally grow in this open environment.
So the fruiting body chamber, it could be outside on my balcony if I live in a condo,
Yes.
and it's okay with the temperature changing? Or try to keep it in the shade as best as possible and maybe covered?
You definitely will not put them under the sun.
Okay.
We don't need sunlight. Away from direct sunlight. That will be the very most important point. And if at the second most important point, you need to have certain airflow, where the air is flowing and not still, because they do need oxygen. Airflow will bring away the carbon dioxide, bring in the fresh oxygen. At the same time, they also need some form of humidity. So if it's too strong an air and the humidity is too dry, you have windburn. So the mushroom, you will see yellowish color at the side or at the base. So that is a sign of windburn. Too much wind, too little humidity.
Yeah, so it'd be quite difficult to grow here. I could probably do it on the balcony out there, but I need to create a cover because this place, it doesn't have much airflow. So I could do it on the balcony, but I'd need to kind of create a system up there as well. When it gets to this stage here, and you're saying we're about 25 days in, so maybe the fruiting body would begin around maybe 7 days.
Yep.
How long will this last? And every time the oyster mushroom grows, explain the process of cultivation, how long I can get from this bag, and approximately how many grams of fresh oyster mushroom I'm going to get from it as well.
From where I have learned from my teacher in Thailand, they say that the biological efficacy of each mushroom bag should produce about 450 grams. And this 450 grams will not apply to all the bags, because some will do very well, some will not. But in general, the weightage, as long you can achieve 400 to 450 grams, we are making money. So assuming this is a perfect substrate bag, they should give you about 450 grams for the next 2 to 3 months. And every time you harvest, they become lighter and they will shrunk. And it's time to recycle them again. And how do you harvest them? Very simply, the moment you see the pinhead appearing, oyster mushroom have to be harvested in 3 days' time. Otherwise, they will expire, they will die. So that's the reason why oyster mushroom is very tedious. If we do not harvest them on time, it will not look fresh, we can't sell them. So on the 3rd day, as quickly as possible, we'll harvest them. All right? And every harvest, you have to clean them up again so that they will be ready for the next one. Right? And you know what they do? the traditional Thai people who grow mushroom, after every harvest, they will give them a spray of Red Bull.
Why?
Because it contains a lot of sugary substance and they need carbohydrates, So you spray them with Red Bull because it's low cost. But we don't do that. If we ever want to excite them to grow faster, we'll buy something more organic, for fungi. So you do that, For home grower, my advice is very simple. Since your amount of mushroom bag is not a lot, right? You can do a little bit more productive work. For example, after every harvest, you clear them, you cap it back again, and you put them back in the dark space and let them rejuvenate for the next 7 to 10 days. And then you open up on the 7 to 10 days and look. If the surface of the sawdust has become white, it means they are ready for your next harvest for home grower. But with so many thousands of bags that we have, we don't do that, right? So that's why we spray them with high energy power.
So you essentially could harvest your oyster mushroom, close it back up, consume your oyster and then mushroom and then bring it back to try to harvest at a time when you need it.
For the next 10 days, 7 to 10 days.
But you have to do it within the 7 to 10 days.
For them to harvest, for them to grow the second time, right? You can stretch them a little bit more, maybe another 2 to 3 days, but not too long. Otherwise, they will try to find a way to come out from there, and it will not be good. The best thing of home grower is that once you harvest them the first time, you have free time for the next 7 to 10 days because you don't need to water them, you don't need to do anything with them anymore until the next time, right? Provided you only have a few bags. But if you do have 50 bags, I leave it to you, all right? And then if you think that it's too troublesome to keep them back, leave them where it is and make sure that you mist them based on the weather. If it's too hot, give them 4 mists per day. If it's not, 1 or 2 times will be good.
If you have a small family of like 3 or 4 and you're living at home and you're eating mushrooms 2-3 times a week, how many bags should I be going through? How should I plan to process my own home mushrooms?
I also have about 4 to 5 members in my family. And for the last 1 year, we did not buy any mushroom from the supermarket. And how many bags do I grow? 50 bags. 50 bags is good enough for me to have mushroom almost every week until you need to give away, So 50 bags to begin with will be a good start.
Are you starting with the 50 or throughout the year you're rotating? Maybe you're changing them every 2 weeks?
Yes, Brandon, very good question. To begin with, you need to start with 50, right? And every bag, they grow differently. Some are faster, some are slower. So the moment you find that your production has dropped, you do another top on, maybe 10 bags, to compensate for the losses. So the next cycle of production will be so much easier, lesser work, because you are not doing fresh production anymore as compared to the first time. So you just add on to maintain the level that you want for consumption. So this is how I do it in Singapore. And in Thailand, it's so much easier. So much easier. Not
just because access to the material.
Right. Raw material is very important to begin with growing mushroom. Without that, there's no mushroom to talk about.
Are you saving money at the end of the year by growing at home, or is it just more the experience and having some fun as well?
I would say that you will not save money, but it's the experience and healthy food. You definitely want to grow your own food, right? Any point of time, whether you want to grow plant or grow your fish or poultry or even fungi, you will not save money. In fact, you spend more. But the consolation of doing so is because of giving you a kind of therapeutic benefit by going through the whole process that will actually give you a peace of mind. And the best thing is that you know where your food source come from, right? And the taste of freshness cannot be compensated by purchasing, because if you eat the fresh mushroom, it's definitely very fresh. I bet you have tasted that the first time that I brought over, right? So growing something for yourself is not to save how much per year, but it's more of an experience and enjoyment, right? At least you know the nutritional value that you grow has helped the family.
If we're purchasing oyster mushrooms at Tesco or any grocery store, how many days do you think it takes from harvesting to your plate, like on traditional grocery stores?
I can't answer a specific to that, but I do give you some pointers to observe. Oyster mushroom is a mushroom that will release a lot of water after they harvest, especially when they are sealed up in the bag. So if you were to take this information, the next time you were to purchase an oyster mushroom, look out for it. If you find that the oyster mushroom in the bag is soggy, it proves what I say is right. And if you find that the oyster mushroom look yellowish, it has already starts the shades of declining, and you don't touch them. You only get hydrated and fresh whitish oyster mushroom, which I'm not sure do you manage to find them or not, but I believe there will be. But definitely, if you grow yours, it's always fresh. All right, it's always fresh.
And the oyster mushroom that you are growing, we have different types of oyster mushroom. You got, I think there is a blue for sure. There's a pink. Is there a yellow and a white?
Yeah.
What are the differences in all these mushrooms in terms of maybe it could be functional, medicinal benefit, or as simple as taste and texture?
In fact, all mushroom, they do have some medicinal functional benefits, definitely. But for oyster mushroom itself, what we always see is the Bhutan oyster, the grayish one, right? We do not see yellow and pink because there's no market for it. And I tried growing them in Thailand, and most of the time I need to throw it away. You know how sad it is? They just buy the normal one. And in terms of nutritional benefit, honestly, oyster carry the most. In terms of protein, in terms of other form of essential minerals, they carry the most. But because they are so underrated due to mass production, low price, people treat it as just a simple food, right? But if anyone who want to get nutrition from them, oyster mushroom is actually very good.
Yeah, I've been reading. There's a doctor, a professor from the University of Singapore, a guy named Barry Hallowell. I have his contact. I should introduce you to him. He's doing clinical trials on oyster mushrooms in Singapore for human consumption because oyster mushrooms hold a high concentration of a non-essential amino acid called ergothioneine. And they're doing studies that ergothioneine, they think, can reduce it's an anti-aging property. And they're trying, again, to do these human clinical trials to prove that if we're able to concentrate this ergothioneine, but extracted from oyster mushroom, what can this do to the aging process? I'm not sure if you've heard of this study.
I have not heard of this study, but it's rather unique to me because usually they will concentrate on some other exotic mushroom to do studies rather than oyster mushroom, which is a mass market, low price mushroom per se. And I share with you why. When I start to grow mushroom, I only grow two types, the edible and inedible. Edible one is the one that we always eat, the oyster mushroom. And there's a market demand. And I start to grow the functional mushroom, medicinal one, which is reishi, what we call the lingzi. Simply because I don't have to reintroduce and educate the consumer, right? So it's straight out there. They know what it is. It's good stuff. It's just a matter how much you are selling, and off I go. And if I want to do a very specific extraction, then I will have to have a different narrative about the reishi. No longer a general health benefit. It will be targeted maybe on antioxidant. And what does this reishi inside can assist in this antioxidant? Then maybe we'll do some lab tests and do some trial and all this, specifically to that cause. And for lion's mane, we are focusing on the PBHE, polysaccharide, beta-glucan, inosine, and anorencins. So again, the first two, P and B, they are more for our general health benefits. But the other two, which is the H and the E, they are very much focused, as we both know, is on the brain, right? So some may not need the first two. They are very much on the brain. Again, some may not need the 3 and 4. They just want for health. So we are providing that concentrated extract. But if I want to do something more specific for lion's mane, then we really need to do a very deep research and look for a problem statement and find a solution in the lion's mane itself. And from there, that will be the track of marketing. All right.
Yeah, and that's an interesting part about the lion's mane. The Latin name is Hericium aranesis, which are the two enzymes that promote nerve growth factor within the brain. I see a lot of companies in the U.S., they will sell Mycelium as a supplement. Do you see the benefits of fruiting body versus Mycelium? Because this is a huge conversation within the functional mushroom supplement industry.
I think if you want to find out the difference, we need to bring in the scientists. We can't just simply say this is better than the other. We need to really go into research. We need the people who know how to do it to find out the truth. But as a personal consumption, the person who's consume it, I find that they are equally beneficial because I do consume pure mycelium. Talking about this, Brendan, if you did your tissue culture successfully and you're not prepared to grow them, you can carve up a piece of this and consume it. Because they say mycelium is actually superfood. They say, but I'm not sure how true. But if I'm going to consume lion's mane as a fruiting body, it's fine as well. Because they do carry those compound that we need. And how do we know that? One thing for sure, when you eat lion's mane fresh, it's going to taste bitter. And that bitterness is a sign of some biomedical compound. And then followed by the rest. And this is very certain. So again, to define whether is it the mycelium, fruiting body, or whatever not, I mean, it had to be proven by science.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on that part. If you're able to ingest the mycelium from this stage, meaning you've taken the oyster stem, you've opened it up, and you're creating the mycelium there, of course you can consume this.
Yes.
It's just because it is at the growth stage that's safe to consume as well. Like you're saying, you're taking it from that stage and eating it. My argument is more against the mycelium companies in the U.S. What they're doing is they'll take the substrate of and they'll use brown rice flour.
Yes.
So they've created the spawn phase. They've put that into the brown rice flour as the substrate, just like that. Mm-hmm. And they're taking that and grinding it into capsules. I think
I heard of that.
There is one company, I just don't want to name names because, well, we're in Thailand. I don't think they can sue me here. Good luck. But that part I don't get. I think I never thought about it on the mycelium if you're able to consume it that way. I think that would be very beneficial because the substrate itself is so small. The mycelium, the growth, it's almost like taking a pill of mycelium. But I don't agree with the companies that are using the brown rice flour and they're grinding that up and giving you a capsule. I feel you're just taking brown rice flour.
You see, that is the easiest way to do production.
Right.
Low cost to a certain extent and save a lot of time. And when you save time, you save a lot of things, right? And it's so straightforward. Just imagine, if you're going to grow mushroom per se, the infrastructure you need to have is so much. And you need so much people to do it. And everything increases the cost. But if you do it lab-based, I assume these are lab-based, right? You can do it a lot and you can do it easily. And you don't need many hands to do it. I understand where you're coming from because I do come across a company, not in Thai, but country M. They are using such an approach not to grow lion's mane, but to another type of mushroom, which is also medicinal, right? And they are using that approach precisely. My observation is because of cost and save a lot of time. And that is commercial reason.
Yes. People need to understand, if you were to hand pick fruiting body mushrooms and grow it in the US, the price per kilogram for lion's mane would be over $300 to $400. The most difficult aspect of harvesting functional mushrooms like lion's mane, it has to be done by hand. So if you got to think of the labor costs in the US compared to, most of it is coming from China. What is the cost for electricity, rent, real estate, the entire team, the operation? It can be quite expensive. So harvesting a fruiting body in China, which most people are doing, and turning it into consumable powders and extracts, it's much cheaper than in the US to harvest that fruiting body, which is why I believe they're just taking the whole substrates and turning it into a capsule or a supplement. They're able to take that brown rice flour, throw it through a machine, process it, and capsule it right away. There's zero, you don't need to hand pick it. It's actually done by machines at this point. That's the whole point of this podcast, and the idea behind the fruiting body mushrooms is I just want to educate and show the people the differences between these processes and the quality of the product that you're taking.
That is precisely why we're here today. We need to share to every individual that the best outcome is when you grow them yourself, because you decide at what stage you want to harvest them to consume. But if you leave it to the corporation, you have what they produce. So you want to control what you eat, you grow it yourself, and who knows, by doing so, you have other value-added benefit as well. But again, I believe companies who are using this method of approach, they will have some form of studies to justify why they are using brown rice and then grind it up to make into capsule together with the mushroom. So they may have some studies on that to show there's no compromise or benefit. All right.
Yeah, I think they use the brown rice because now you'll use sawdust for lion's mane as well.
Yep.
Well, that's the thing, you can't consume sawdust.
Yes.
So they're going to use the brown rice flour. That is what I would love to see, and it doesn't exist yet. I would love to see studies done by Johns Hopkins or Oxford University, and there's a couple schools and universities in the UK that are planning to do this, is to do human clinical trials on the difference between the mycelium on grain versus the fruiting body. I do believe that the mycelium has a huge benefit. I don't think there is enough that you could extract, and I'm not sure how you would extract it from the brown rice flour, but the way you've explained it, where you're actually taking it from that part of the process, I think there's a huge benefit there. I don't think that process could be on a large scale. It would be nearly impossible. The cost would just be too expensive. But if you're doing it from your home, that might be an interesting way to consume it. Consuming your own mycelium grown on the mushroom itself.
And the takeaway of that mycelium that I consume is it just blend, nothing much. But what I do next, what I did the next time was that I add an almond seed so that I feel that I'm chewing something. So I do have an almond mycelium. It's just that I do not have a top-on chocolate on it. No, there are people who already done mycelium chocolate. So nothing new to it. It's just that this is another focus altogether. But for myself, I do it for fun. I do it for fun.
Yeah, I think a lot of these companies, they will use a chocolate or a coffee. And the reason they're doing that is because we're familiar with those.
Yes.
We're familiar with chocolate. We're familiar with coffee. Yes. And it's much easier for someone to ingest this way and easier to sell as well.
Yes.
Before we wrap this up, I just kind of had one final question about the different uses of oyster mushroom beyond edible consumption. Meaning, if we are producing the oyster mushroom, do I have options to dry it out, to put into a tea? I'll allow you to jump on that. So I'm not just eating oyster mushroom all day. What else can I do with it?
Okay. From my personal perspective, I will not do too much with oyster mushroom, simply because they are a low value crop. So if I'm going to dehydrate them, I may be spending more to sell to earn so little. But if I'm going to do snack per se, maybe shiitake will be a good choice, because some shiitake, where they are too tiny to be sold, they use it as snack, and that carry a premium, no. So we can consider that if you do have avenue to in that approach. Other than that, oyster mushroom to me is just to grow as it is and market it as it is. Okay, and that's it, straightforward, right?
Have you seen? I've seen some companies now doing like mushroom jerky.
Yeah,
They call it. It's like kind of you're drying it out.
correct.
And, is that using shiitake most of the time, or what are they using?
Shiitake have a sense of being meaty, so they can shiitake possible, lion's mane is possible. Oyster mushroom, I think snack will be a better choice. So far I realized shiitake, lion's mane, and maybe abalone oyster. I'm not sure, right? Maybe, right?
Okay. Well, that's interesting for anyone out there that, what can I do with the mushroom besides just eating it in a dish?
Right.
You have other options, and especially with we went into that last time on reishi and how it can be used for medicinal purposes and tea, and we showed that. This episode turned into an entire grow episode, which is great. I think that's the entire piece of that content, and we'll explain that to the audience. We'll kind of put this all together and make it more educational on the quick, fast, real social stuff. Now, before we wrap it up, I will kick it back to this camera to Liam. And if you can kind of just let everyone know that's on the island where they can find Mushroom World Phuket, and if they want to reach out to you, all your social and contact information.
Sure.
Maybe just pull the mic in a bit. The microphone here, just push that in. There you go.
Okay.
And just look into this camera. Okay.
Hi everyone, I'm Liam here. Mushroom World can be found in Chao Long, Soi Kum Yam. Mushroom World Phuket have a story. We are called Mushroom Story. We carry 3 brands. Our first brand is Fungi Farm Tour and Workshop, followed by our Mushroom Burger, which is harvest from the farm, the farm to table concept, live fresh lion's mane burger. And lastly, we do have a therapeutic Thai massage center where we will use our reishi that we grow into an extracted oil where we do wellness from there. So this is our mushroom story. And to top it on, we also conduct international courses where we plan to integrate people who are interested to grow commercially to come by to Singapore one day to learn from us. And at the same time, that is how Singapore way of growing, with an opportunity to be exposed to Phuket Farm, which is a Thai way of growing, where this certificate will be recognized. We will call this a professional certificate, which you can bring home to set up a farm or even find an opportunity in Thailand or even in Singapore as a mushroom grower. So hope to see you guys the next time. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Brandon, for the time. Thanks, Han, for your time. And see you. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Okay. So that basically wraps up our episode. But I mean that the mushroom world, you really do encompass that. It's not just going there for the mushroom burgers. It's the full experience. He's offering classes. There's the education side to it. And now that I just learned with the reishi mushroom extraction involved in therapeutic Thai massage. So you can check him out in Chao Long. We're going to leave links in the description. Also on his Instagram and his website as well. Any questions, let us know in the comments. We're not going anywhere, and I don't think Liam is either. So he'll definitely be back on the podcast later, and maybe we can show different growing experiences, maybe with reishi or lion's mane. Let us know what you thought. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this podcast, smash the like. It helps us out in the algorithm. We are growing. I mean, if you're already into this for an hour and a half, I'm surprised anyone's still here. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode. We're out.